Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we are in São Paulo on the 11th floor of a huge building, of a tower in Faria Lima district of São Paulo. And we are in the office of the company called Pismo. We're going to talk about product and about the implementation of what we are usually talking about, what we are usually discussing, the principles, the regulatory things, etc., etc. And today I'm together with Alex Pinto, who is the Vice President for Product at Pismo. Am I right? Vice President?
Yes, exactly.
With us today is also Leonardo Carmona, Head of Information Security at Pismo. Hi, Leonardo.
My pleasure.
And we're going to talk, as I said, mostly about product rather than usual things that we usually discuss, let's say compliance issues. First of all, the name of the company, right? Everyone knows Pismo Beach, which is in California, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I've been there a couple of times. Why Pismo? Do you know about that?
Yes. Actually, Pismo was founded in 2016 by four entrepreneurs. They have a lot of experience working in the payments industry before. And one of the founders, I believe Dani, was traveling in California and they saw the beach and they decided to use the name for the company. So that's the origin of the name.
It's actually very nice that you have this type of the mythology of the company, that you have four founders, 2 men, 2 women, like experienced in their profession, just like Hogwarts, right? Like in Harry Potter movies, where you have also 4 experienced magicians who began a company, began a university there. The school here, it's a company.
Exactly, and I think Pismo has a unique history because it started as any startup, working with smaller clients, but early in its history, it started working with Itau, which is the largest retail bank in Brazil. So Itau saw a lot of potential in the company, in the platform that we were building at the time. So it helped a lot the company to grow a lot and get new deals recently. So I think that was a very important milestone for the company to have Itau.
So Pismo is a company that is providing technology for banks, basically, infrastructure, but is not really banking as a service, right? Can you explain the difference?
Yes, I think that's a very good question because now in the market we have different kinds of providers and value proposition. And for Pismo, our focus is technology. So we want to provide the best available technology for processing payments and core banking using the cloud computing and offering it as a software as a service model. So our decision, a strategic decision, is to focus on the technology and not having some kind of license or approval to provide actual financial services.
But on the other hand, as far as I understand, your infrastructure is very much based on the regulatory requirements of the central banks. And so all the time when you offer some kind of a product, it's oriented for a specific regulatory environment.
Yes. I would say that besides healthcare, probably the financial industry is the most regulated industry we have. And of course, when you think from a product standpoint, we need to develop the infrastructure that allows our customers to innovate, but we need to follow some guardrails, which is the regulation. So we need to be aware, very aware, of the limits that we have in terms of regulation and find this balance between, of course, following the rules, but also allowing our customers to innovate and to differentiate themselves in the market.
In terms of showing to the regulators and to your clients that you're trustworthy, one of the elements of that is definitely certifications of various kinds. What kind of certifications you would consider absolutely indispensable for a SaaS business that you are representing?
We have ISO 27000, we have PCI DSS, we have PCI PIN security. We are finishing SOC 1 Type 2, and I believe we will be certified in a couple of weeks. And we are in the very end of the certification, and we have more to come. I would say these ones are the most recognized for financial services, and
Agree.
A must-have if you want to play in this market. But again, we have been discussing about some local certifications. So in UK, you have some cybersec certifications that show to the market that you are following the best practices for cybersec and many others. Not only for the InfoSec industry, but today we have been talking a lot about privacy, and it is very important to have a strong policy, a strong commitment with privacy, with our clients' data. And we have been following LGPD here in Brazil. Now we are...
It's like GDPR.
Yeah. Now we are doing the same in UK, starting the same discussion in US, in India. So in every country that we have operations, we need to understand what is expected from our regulators, and we need to compare this framework, this local framework, with our global framework. In a way we can see gaps and overlaps, and then add this to our strategy.
In-house team, how many people are working on the questionnaires for certifications, just to compare with our situation, for example?
Well, the whole security team has 30 people working.
30 people?
Yeah. We have a vertical called GRC. So the vertical GRC is in charge of privacy issues and everything regarding certification and our InfoSec management system. We have a tech manager leading this cell. He's based in the UK, and he's also our DPO. So everything regarding this discussion about certification and...
It's Andy Dutton, no?
No.
Oh, it's another.
Andy is in charge of InfoSec architecture.
In the UK.
He's based in UK. We have Thiago Lopes leading the GRC, and he has with him, I believe, almost 8 people working today.
We have less that type of thing, so it's a good thing to hire.
Because this team is also in charge of the due diligence processes. So this team is also helping clients and prospects to understand how we manage security, if our certifications are up to date, etc.
Do you engage people from the technical team, those who develop the system?
Sure.
To this? So
Yeah.
It's also part of their
During the certification process, during the audits, we used to invite some folks from other areas to support us and to show to the external auditors how we are doing.
Are they grumpy doing this?
It's part of the job, you know.
So I actually read about this event-oriented infrastructure that you have. Can you give me a bit of details how it works? Because as far as I understand, this is like the core feature of your philosophy of Pismo platform.
Yes. Let's talk about a particular use case. If you open a digital account in a bank.
Yeah.
So when you open an account, usually you go through a know your customer process. You know, checking your ID, your photo, and so on. So for each step of this know your customer process, we have some events. So we know that when the customer filled the form, you know, with that information, when the customer was approved by the know your customer technology and solution, and then we have the account open, everything, we have events for that. And of course the bank can communicate with the client if something goes wrong or if they need more information. It's much faster because they have that information real time from the platform.
Okay. I also read about what is called fragmented services approach. I think from your founder, he said that it's hard to explain to banks how these fragmented services works, because it's from the layman perspective, it's easier to work on kind of like holistic approach.
Yes.
And banks, large banks are like crocodiles. They're robust with brutal efficiency, but slow to move. Can you comment?
Yes, that's a good analogy, because usually, of course, especially the incumbents, the large banks, they have a very dependable technology stack, because they are in the business for a long period of time. They are very dependable, their platform. But on the other hand, usually those technologies, those products and systems were developed 20, 30, 40 years ago. So the banks now, they have a kind of a dilemma, because they have those powerful systems, but they are hard to adapt. And now they are facing a different kind of competition, from digital entrants like the fintechs, the digital banks. So they need to innovate faster than they used to be. So that's their challenge today. And usually they look for players in the market like Pismo that offer next generation core banking, so to speak, based on the cloud, but not only based on the cloud, but based on smaller services, that fragmented services concept, that they can build together, they can orchestrate together our services and their services in the legacy system and third-party providers.
Completely seamlessly.
Yes, exactly. Much easier than try to change their old mainframe systems, for instance.
As an example of lending, I just had also some kind of interesting information. 58% of US banks manage loan accounts entirely manually. And I guess this is not only for US, I guess that's on the market. And you have released some kind of your approach to lending, right? Digital lending?
Yes, we just launched the platform. It manages the whole life cycle of a lending contract, from the booking to disbursement, repayments, and final settlement. So we manage all this life cycle using this new stack, this new technology stack. So it's much more suitable, for instance, for buy now, pay later examples.
Right.
Imagine that you have to deal with buy now, pay later contracts in a manual way or using spreadsheets. That would be impossible if you establish a partnership with a larger commerce, It would be hundreds or thousands of contracts every day. So that would be really, really impossible. So it's important to have a more suitable infrastructure for lending, especially these days.
So this means that basically, if a traditional bank wants to enter these markets, for example, buy now, pay later, the huge marketplaces, the only way how they can do it is using platforms like yours.
Yes, it's going to be impossible to handle this manually or with older systems.
Let's say with Pismo, you can build the second Revolut, Itau, or Nubank, or for that matter, Wise or anything like that.
Yeah.
You don't need really any technology, you just need people for that. You need the license, you need obviously the capital, but everything else can be done on the Pismo side.
Yes, of course, to build a bank, especially a commercial bank, you need, as you mentioned, people, experienced people, you need the license.
Yes.
But Pismo can act as a very important catalyst for that, because we provide that infrastructure that the banks need. And it takes time to develop this kind of technology. So it's easier, it's much faster to hire a company like Pismo to provide this, and then focus on building the services, building the digital channels to engage the customers. Then you have your technology team, the bank can have their technology team, and Pismo can be that framework for that. So I think it makes a lot of sense, especially for new banks that are building from scratch. But we see also this movement with the traditional banks like Itau. When they want to provide a new service, they want to reach out to new audience, they can use our platform as a way to innovate faster and then integrate with the legacy systems for legal reporting, for general ledger. And eventually, they can move the traditional services from the legacy platform to the new platform gradually, because no one is crazy to do a big bang migration in the financial industry. It's too risky.
Yes.
But they can do it gradually in we call a carve-out approach. You start taking some features from the legacy systems and start using in the new platform. That's something that we're seeing with some of our customers.
People like details, of course, here. I guess in order to build really like a digital bank from scratch, you need how much time? 2 years?
I would say that in Brazil, probably yes, because of the regulator. That probably is the time that you need to get all those licenses from the central bank in Brazil to get the license. But from a technology standpoint, it will be much faster. We do have a customer which already had the license, and he wants to launch a digital bank for B2C. And they launched this new digital bank in around 8 to 9 months. That's the kind of time.
With your solution?
With Pismo, exactly.
So most of the time that they need it to put the people on the right positions that are already prescribed by your solution, for example.
Yes, build the mobile app, establish the services that they're going to provide as an MVP to have, marketing, the campaigns and so on. Basically, that's what they need to do. And in 8-9 months, we get a whole new digital bank focused on B2C.
Is it safe to say, since you are a cloud-based solution, is it safe to say that all these banks that you're working with, that are your clients, they basically are using one and the same core?
Exactly. We are a product company, so basically they are using the same source code, the same software to run the payments and the core banking functions. Of course, since we are a global company, we do have some instances of the platform running in different places because of response times, network latency, and sometimes because of regulatory requirements as well.
To slower data, for example, somewhere.
Yes, but in principle, it's a single product running for every client we have.
And so this means that you are actually an indispensable part of even sometimes financial systems, national financial systems. For example, in Brazil, I know you're working not only in Brazil, but for example, if we take Brazil, then you are one of the important elements of the national financial system. Is it safe to say?
Exactly, because we provide the infrastructure for banks to actually manage the accounts of their clients, the checking accounts, savings, the loans. So we are a very important part of this infrastructure. Of course, we're not visible to the end user because we have the brands of the banks, but we are an important part because if something goes wrong, it's going to impact the end user, the account holder of that bank.
And does it mean that basically you are having the access to ledgers? You're carrying out some of the functions of the banks.
Yes, they're using our platform to actually manage the ledger, of their clients, the cash-ins and the cash-outs. And of course, they get information from our platform to generate the legal reports and, to perform transactions between banks. If I'm going to perform a wire transfer, I need to impact my ledger here and the bank needs to send that money to the other bank. So it's a very critical part of the banking function.
I'm afraid to ask this question, but do you have some friendly side talks with the national regulator? Because obviously they would think that you are the right person to talk about the resilience of the national financial system.
Yes, and I would say one of the good things about the central bank in Brazil, the main regulator in Brazil, that it's very open to talk about improvements in the systems. We have some very interesting projects taking place in Brazil since 2020, PIX and Open Finance. And the central bank invited all the stakeholders, not only the banks, but also the technology providers, to talk about the best way to implement those new networks, these new ideas that the regulator has. So that's very interesting for us to have this close relationship with them.
Right. So basically the regulator sets the rules and then says, okay, this is the technology company that you can talk to about how to implement those.
Yeah, I would say that in Brazil they're even more open. They invite us to talk about the
what they need.
Yes, the guidelines that will be done. So it's very interesting. It's not so common. Of course, we work in different countries. It's not so common to see a regulator so open to talk not only with the banks but also with the tech companies about the new.
I can tell even more. In Brazil, you can talk to authorities different ways of like Polícia Federal, for example, federal police and other authorities through WhatsApp, just to understand the openness of the
Banco Central in Brazil, which is the main regulator, has a Telegram channel, has a YouTube channel as well. So I think that's not common for our regulators.
You are a cloud-based solutions. Since they are cloud-based, someone can somehow break into a cloud from some side. As far as I know, you have a lot of procedures and a lot of strategies how to make secure your cloud. Maybe you can tell us about some.
Sure. There are two important directions that we have been following. First one is zero trust. It's not just beautiful words that we have been listening from the market for a while.
Yes.
This thing works. You should not trust in any connection, anyone, all the time. The second one I would say is what we call zero privilege operation.
Mm-hmm.
So we are moving our platform in a direction where we will have no humans touching the platform. Never.
Interesting.
So the idea is to have a lot of automation and well-defined processes that can be managed by our teams without direct access to any piece of the platform.
It's like Cyberdyne systems in Terminator.
Yeah. And last but not least, encryption. Encryption is a must-have, you know. You must encrypt everything you can to guarantee that no one will be able to touch the data. So encryption is a tool that should be really used as much as possible to guarantee that if everything fails, your data is safe and no one can use this in a wrong way.
I know that you also use a tactic called or a procedure called, or whatever you call it, chaos engineering.
Yes.
Can you tell a bit about?
Yes. So we put some automations into the platform in our APIs to degrade the APIs, to drop down connections, to fail clusters, databases. And with this, we can validate that our systems are ready for real failures. Success can be a problem when you have a huge distributed system. And if you don't have problems, when you face a problem, the team will not be able to respond. They will won't remember how to treat with that problem.
Right.
Chaos engineering is helping us to keep our team ready to incident response. And not only chaos engineering, we will also do, since the beginning, I have an offensive team here. So our hackers, they are in charge of penetration tests, DevSecOps environment, etc., threat intelligence. And since the beginning, we have been developing the idea that we should find our vulnerabilities by ourselves and to teach our team, our engineers, how to deal with these vulnerabilities. We implemented a program called Security Champions, where we have at least one person in each squad that is specialized in security. We train them, and we have meetings with this team to guarantee that they know what to do if something bad happened during an attack or something like this. So it is not only a perspective from operations, resilience, and performance, but also cyber attack. We do purple team exercise, so we are constantly attacking ourselves to guarantee that every single one knows what to do if something real happened.
And the defenders, do they know that this is just a drill, or?
Sometimes they know, sometimes don't.
Cool. There are so many data leaks that have been discussed in previous years, like Facebook, like hundreds of millions of people, Serasa, Experian, here in Brazil, and also LinkedIn. And my favorite example is Cognite. I think 5 billion people, 5 billion data sets have been taken from Cognite, which is a company which is doing actually security intelligence. Yeah. And they are kind of like storing securely the data. How is Pismo like preparing yourself, apart from what you have also managed to tell in the light of this data leaks?
There is no 100% security. And that's why we need to figure out if something happens, how we will still be strong, like a rock.
Yeah.
If everything fails, how we can still protect the data, still protect the company. So we are always with this mindset.
Yeah.
Probing our network, probing our code, probing our processes, testing people, even people. We test people all the time, and doing phishing attacks and many other things. You should never be comfortable, because sometimes I see people maybe feeling that everything is okay. They have all the certifications.
Yeah.
They have all processes in place, a strong roadmap, the best people, etc. But we still have 0 days. We still have countries investing billions in cyber attack. We should never believe that we are strong enough and put ourselves in a posture where we are always ready, always.
You are helping banks to make sure that they count various risks correctly, etc., etc. How do you think, would you help banks like Silicon Valley Bank, a recent crash, and Signature Bank, a recent crash? And we see that most of these crashes happened actually because of the incorrect risk management. Of course, okay, we have FTX where the money was stolen, really, but the real problem was on the side of the risk management, that the people who controlled the bank, they just didn't have enough data probably, or enough understanding what should be the right risk management. How do you think can Pismo and companies like Pismo help to maintain resilience of those banks? And I can give you a metaphor, of course, that we know Boeing provided these figures that 80% of the air crashes happen because of the human error. And so probably it's a good thing to have a feature in the autopilot that really does not let people to do mistakes, to make mistakes and to crash airplanes. What do you think?
I would say that platforms like Pismo, which provide a real-time stream of events, are very important in these days because things happen very fast. If you look at the Silicon Valley Bank, basically it happens in less than 24 hours, the bank run and things like that. So if you have a platform, a technology that could provide you the information real-time, maybe you could act more quickly.
Yes.
So I think that's the way that we can help those banks to provide that information to the risk management systems they have, maybe in the future, artificial intelligence, and they can see some issue happening before it becomes too big to address. So I think that's the way that we can help those banks. Usually those traditional platforms, you have that information probably by the end of the day, but maybe end of the day is not enough, You need to be...
And maybe you also can ring to the regulator and say, this bank is going to fall down. And the bank owners, of course, they will like to hide the information until the last moment.
Exactly.
And so there is some
provides more transparency internally to the regulator as well. Yes.
So you're also having this kind of conflict of interest that some traditional banks want to hide all their problems inside, and they're thinking that if they open up, for example, for Pismo, then they will not be able to provide any dirty business.
Yes, of course, it depends on the regulator.
Yeah.
Yes, some regulators are more strict, especially in Brazil. I would say that the regulator is very active. They know, I think, in a pretty level of detail what's going on in each bank, so they can act in a timely manner. But of course, in other countries, maybe that's a possibility. You don't want to be too much transparent to your clients and the regulator.
You have clients like Itau, it's the largest bank of Brazil.
Yeah.
You have N26, which is one of the largest German banks, digital banks, and one of the largest European digital banks. You have other clients, BTG, Pactual, and other clients. Are you more secure than them?
Probably most of them.
Most of them.
Yeah,
That's
probably.
a good answer.
They have a much more complex environment, and they have a huge legacy environment, most of them.
Right.
Cloud solutions are very, very automated.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to push policies to protect the whole environment when you have a cloud native solution.
Yeah.
I've been managing hybrid environments for a while, and it's tough sometimes because maybe you have a system that already is in end of life, is being supported. How to protect something like this? You need to have a lot of creativity to protect some systems, but it's possible. But again, cloud systems, in my perspective, are more secure than on-prem systems. And because of that, I would say we are more secure than most of them.
I have actually some question that we didn't discuss before. We had a discussion before, of course, which is also related is digital signatures and everything that is related to this kind of a market, which basically is the idea that you can carry out certain transactions that have legal value without actual presence. But at the same time, we have KYC technologies that are actually the same. And because of actually the digital signature providers, they usually use KYC providers for verification, and then they put their digital signature up front, which is basically kind of like a cargo cult to a certain extent, that it does not mean anything itself because you have verification that is meaningful. You have some kind of digital signatures inside the platform. How is it used in Brazil? And
I would say that Brazil is pretty advanced in this perspective. So we can use digital signatures basically for almost everything. For signing business contracts, for doing financial transactions. So it's pretty much standard now in Brazil. There's a legal framework for that. In terms of our clients, usually they use other companies that integrate with our platform to have these signatures and the know your customer in place before, actually making the transaction, the payments inside our platform.
But do you agree that it's cargo cult? The digital signature itself.
Yeah.
By the way, I have seen a digital signature provider that does not have a real like a signature part. They have a signature part, but just like on PandaDoc or a DocuSign, just the same kind of like you put. And then they say this is perfectly legal because and then they're citing the general law saying that there is like a freedom of contract. In Brazil, freedom of contract, and that you can sign a contract by exchanging electronic documents. It's not violating the law, so it's legal. So everyone is trying to avoid this.
Yes.
Element.
There are some discussion in Brazil, but it's in the early stage to have a centralized authority to handle all the identities. Probably based on blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have a blockchain managed, for instance, by the central bank or the revenue service, and you can have your identity there, and you can use that identity.
Wallet, basically.
Yes, exactly. And you can use your credentials to sign a contract or to perform a financial transaction, but it's still in early stage here.
Another thing that is very interesting is, of course, PIX system.
Oh yeah.
So PIX system is basically the system of instant payments that you can do anywhere on the street, in any shop or anything like that is working in Brazil. This is common to some of the European solutions, but this is kind of like a new thing here in Brazil.
Yes, it was launched back in 2020, 3 years ago, less than 3 years ago.
Could they work without your platform?
Yes,
Scale.
of course, but there will be some challenges because Pix, as you mentioned, is a real-time payment platform. So it already is the most important way, the most common way to pay in Brazil, the most used payment method in Brazil. So the number of transactions in Brazil in terms of the financial system increased a lot. So of course, the core banking, the systems that run the transactions inside the bank needs to be prepared for that, not only for the increase in the transactions, but also the nature, the 24/7 nature of the transaction. Because usually the legacy systems, they have batch processes, they need to have some downtime, for the system. So it's not compatible with this new payment method that you need to authorize transactions at any time. So that's very challenging for most of the banks in Brazil, especially the ones that have older systems. And they needed to find some kind of workarounds so they can authorize the transactions even if their core bank system is down because they are running some batch systems.
So basically this PIX system, it's to a large extent contributed by your platform as well.
Yes, because it requires a different approach to core banking, a core banking that is designed to work 24/7.
Right.
Because before PIX in Brazil, we do have some kind of instant payment or almost real-time payments, but usually it's just for business hours. So it's not a problem to have your system.
Someone manually check the transaction.
Yes, and you can run your batch process at night because no transaction happens at night before PIX in Brazil. But now it's a different world.
One of the peculiar things about PIX system is that it uses QR code as an authenticator. Can you tell why they use the QR code?
Yes. Well, PIX use other types of initiators, like you can send a PIX to a email address, a cell phone number, the CPF.
Yes.
But the most common way, especially for purchase in the stores, is the QR code. And it's interesting because when the central bank started talking about the project, the original idea is to use NFC, to pay you with your phone, like Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or Google Pay. But the context in Brazil is different because even today, not all the cell phones in Brazil and all devices have NFC support. So most part of the population won't be able to use PIX if the NFC support is the preferred choice. So they decide to use the QR code, which is much more democratic, I would say, because you just need a camera and a display, a screen to showcase.
And a display on a terminal that is...
Yes, and every cell phone has a camera, and it could be a simple camera to capture the QR code. So that's the reason that the central bank decided to use the QR codes instead of NFC. But probably next year, it's also going to be possible to use NFC to pay with PIX.
And I guess this is a good solution for many developing markets, right?
Yes. I think that's the reason that it's so common in Asia, in India, and China.
For example, cards, you also support cards? Is that?
Yes. We do have a payment platform for the traditional card schemes, Visa and Master. So we provide all the processing from the issuer standpoint. So we provide the technology that the card issuers can use our platform to authorize transactions, to generate the invoices, to handle repayments and so on.
And so you're partnering with MasterCard, Visa?
Yes. We're certified by these schemes in Brazil, in India, in Argentina.
Some brilliant badge of partnership with MasterCard.
Yes.
Okay. You are with Pismo 2 years.
2 years and a half.
2 years and a half.
Yeah.
How did you get to Pismo and where are you going in the future?
Well, I spent 15 years working in Prudential Financial, an American group,
Very well done.
huge one. In the beginning, I used to be a infrastructure guy. Then I moved to security. After Prudential, I had the opportunity to work in some of the biggest banks in the country, like PTG, which is our client today, BV, and many others, like Safra. After this, I moved to financial services. I helped to build a startup owned by the 5 biggest banks in the country, analytic company and a credit bureau company. And after this, I moved to another credit bureau, a competitor from COD. And
One of those probably was Serasa, I guess, though.
No, Serasa, I never worked at them, but
Doesn't matter.
that's the only one I don't work yet in the market, probably. And after this, I joined Pismo. I met Danny in the very beginning of the company, and we keep on touch for a while. And then in the right moment, I joined the company. And since then, we are in a very interesting journey together. When I joined the company, we used to have 50 people working here. Now we have 500 in 6 countries, I guess. And we are growing very fast.
What's your background? How did you end up in Pismo?
Yes, that's funny because I am a computer engineer. I also got a master's degree in electrical engineer. And back in the 97, 98, a long time ago, I started as a software developer. And back then, I had an opportunity to work to a small company that provides systems to bank. And I found it very interesting and challenging back then because you're talking about financial services that are a very important part of the daily lives of people and companies. Of course, we expect high standards for, this kind of technology. And I think it was very, very challenging at the time. And I like it to work in this kind of industry, providing technology to the financial service. I stayed in that company for almost 20 years in different positions like marketing, product engineering, and business development, and so on. And more recently, I moved to Pismo, and now I'm helping the company to establish a roadmap, especially for the core banking platform and to expand globally. So I would say that there's still a lot of challenges, especially related to global expansion and all the new projects that you mentioned, open finance that happens in many places, instant payments. So I think there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, especially given the fact that Brazil is kind of like opening up right now, and they become more open to Europe, to European finance, to US finance, and there are so many financial bridges that are now built between Europe, let's say, and Brazil. And the new technologies. As far as I heard, you told me about this digital real. Can you?
Yes. Well, the digital real is a CBDC, a central bank digital cryptocurrency issued by the central bank.
Yes.
It was launched officially last week.
Yeah.
And I think the central bank, as usual, I think they found the right balance between innovation and the need for stability, to privacy, and so on. So they decided that currency will be handled by the banks. The banks will distribute that currency, the tokens, to the end users. So it's not a decentralized finance approach.
It's a centralized.
Yes, it's a centralized approach. And I think the most important benefit of the Real Digital is related to smart contracts or the programmable money, to have a currency in Brazil now. Of course, in Brazil now we have Real Digital, you can send a Pix anytime you want, so it's already digital. But the Real Digital now provides another layer in terms of smart contracts. So if you buy something, especially if some physical good, you can actually tie the settlement with the transfer of the ownership. If you buy a house or if you buy a car, you can have a smart contract running in this platform of the Real Digital. And when you pay, you have the guarantee that the good, the house or the car will be yours. And that's I think the most.
So many lawyers will lose their job.
Yes, notary offices that are pretty common in Brazil. Usually when you buy a house, to go physically to those places, the seller and the buyer, and you need to make sure that you're going to transfer the money and the seller will transfer the ownership to you. So that's kind of friction associated.
So this means that the registers of, let's say, real estate and cars, for example, can also go blockchain, right?
Yes, they can be tokenized. Yes, that's the idea. They're starting now, the central bank is starting with financial assets. They're starting with federal bonds. They're tokenizing federal bonds, but it's a multi-asset blockchain. So we can have tokens for cars, for houses, for invoices. Yes, for basically everything that you can sell or buy.
So this will, I guess, revolutionize the real estate market of Brazil, which is very interesting. Nobody knows, but I have a friend of mine who is a real estate agent, and he's telling me a lot about the real estate market in Brazil with all these cities like Itapema and Balneário Camboriú.
Yes, and of course you can tokenize a house or a building in small parts, so you can own 1% of a house or 10% of a building. So that kind of new business model probably will start happening in Brazil because of this infrastructure that we have.
Right. I see that Pismo is doing a lot of effort in terms of blogging, sharing some experience, and the founders of the company are sharing something on the blog, and you are also sharing something on the blog. This is a good thing. We also doing the same, right?
Uh-huh.
How do you think, what will be the future of this activity? Is it something that you are putting a lot of effort, or is it just like a side thing that?
No, I think it's central to the company, not only from a marketing perspective. Of course, it's good also for marketing, but I think it has to do with the culture that we have here at Pismo, because we want to be part of the revolution, and you can't do this by yourself alone. You need to interact with partners, with the clients, with the regulator, and the way to do this is sharing information, sharing knowledge, not only showing what we do, but asking questions or getting answers from other players, other stakeholders. I think it is fundamental for us. No company today can be innovative without being connected to the ecosystem. Maybe some competitors as well.
I cannot be more agreeing with you about that, because we are doing just the same thing. And we're doing the same thing, and we also really believe in sharing the information and creating this kind of like a circle of information around the companies that are doing the same thing, and this will create the new revolution, I guess, in technology. I'm really thankful to you for this talk. It was
really great. Thank you very much for the
I think we covered most of the things that we planned and even more.
Yes.